and I am your host for today. I'm here with our Embase expert, Anne-Marie Roche. Anne-Marie has a biology background and has delivered Embase training for several years. She works closely with the Embase product team and our customers to understand how Embase provides a solution for many different workflows. Today she will introduce you to Embase, showing you, for example, how to pinpoint precise biomedical information, set up basic search strategies, and how to continuously track the biomedical information. We will be placing this webinar online, so you can listen to it again on your own time. Before we get started with Embase, I would like to briefly put Embase into context with the other activities that go on at Elsevier. Elsevier serves three main interlocked areas which may be of interest to you: biology, chemistry, and medicine. Embase is one of the products serving your needs in biochemistry. And we also have Reaxys, our tool for chemists, Pharmapendium, giving searchable access to all FDA and EMA approval documentation, and our new target finding and validation tool, Target Insights, within the biology and medicine spheres. Cyber Science Direct provides full-text access to over 10 million journal articles and enables further understanding of the scientific literature through applications and new article formats, as does Cyber Scopus, a multidisciplinary, all-science, abstract, and citation database. This should help put Embase into context. And with that, we can move on to today's Embase session, which Anne-Marie will be walking us through.
Okay, sorry, Chris. The slides, I think, didn't keep up with you there, but thank you very much for that introduction. And I'm just going to move on to the slide where you can explain a little bit about the need to knows. Here we go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so just before we get started, just a couple of things I'd like to mention. During the session, you can send us your questions by using the chat or ask a question function on the webinar control panel. We will have 15 minutes for questions at the end, and for those questions we do not answer in the webinar, they will be included in a complete Q&A sent to all attendees by email. If you wish to have a full screen view, please click on the red arrow. Your control panel will be hidden. Click again on the red arrow to see your control panel again. Okay, welcome, Anne-Marie. Could you please tell us more about Embase?
I certainly will, Chris. And thank you again for the introduction. And I would like to introduce you to Embase today for those who are new to Embase, and for those who may not be so new, I'm hoping that there is some new information here for you as well. So Embase is the world's most comprehensive intelligent biomedical research tool, and we are going to talk about Embase under three main headings today. Confidence, which will largely look at the content within Embase, giving you confidence that you're finding all the information that you need. The deep biomedical indexing will introduce our thesaurus entry and some of the indexing that we do to back up your searches. And of course the retrieval tools themselves, which help you pinpoint the most relevant information. So let's move on to confidence. So just to give you an overview of Embase, we have our thesaurus sitting on top of the content, providing the backbone to the searching within Embase. And then we have our fully indexed Embase collection, over 7,700 journals, including Medline. And when I say including Medline, we add the unique Medline to Embase, about 2,500 journals. Articles in press and in process records are added. This makes sure that you can retrieve the information as soon as it is available. And we also add very important content source, conference abstracts. So these are all part of your search in Embase. And just to help you picture that a little bit more clearly with regards to the Embase Medline content, Embase has about 5.5 million journals, and we're overlapping with about, or articles, I should say, my apologies, 5.5 million articles, 10 million overlapping and 9 million coming in Medline in total. And you'll see with regards to the journals, we have about 3,000 journals overlapping and 2.5 coming from Medline and being added to Embase. So importantly, we don't add the overlapping content from Medline, only the unique content. So what about the unique content in Embase? For those of you who may not be so familiar with what exactly you're searching in Embase, we've just selected a couple of subject areas here. So if we look at the second one, cardiovascular medicine, for example, you can see of the total collection, 110 are coming uniquely from Embase, and we have 21 coming uniquely from Medline. Shared, we have 206, and you'll see the total on the end column. So that's for those of you who may not yet be searching Embase or thinking about searching Embase. Then looking at these topic areas, you can see exactly how many journals you're finding uniquely in Embase. This is not being searched when searching in Medline. And we can provide more information on other topics on Embase if needed, and you can find full journal lists on our info site, embase.com/info. So that's the journal content. We also have conference abstract content, which I said in Embase. And importantly, you need to be able to search this, of course. So here I've shown you a screenshot of the advanced search form. Looking at field limits, you'll see that you can search specifically in the conference date, conference location, and conference name. So if you have a name of a conference that you're interested in following, one perhaps that you attend every year, or you'd like to track the information from that conference, then you can type it in here and search in those specific fields to get to that information even faster. Also from our advanced limits on the same page, you can select the conference abstract and then search for example, cardiovascular, heart disease, specifically in the conference abstract publication type. And again, the list of all conferences covered can be found on our information site. So how about deep indexing? Let me tell you a little bit about the deep indexing in Embase. So this is entry, Arthosaurus, with 60,000 terms. All mesh terms are included in entry. 29,000 of those are drug and chemical terms. And importantly, entry is now updated 3 times a year, including backposting. So new drug synonyms, for example, new drugs which are coming on the market, are now added even faster to entry. And as part of that, we do add all generic names described by the FDA and EMEA, all international non-proprietary names described by the WHO from 2000. So these are automatically part of the updates added to entry. So synonyms. Why are synonyms important? Synonyms are important for comprehension because regardless of how an author refers to a drug term or a disease term in an article, we will always map it to the entry term. So this is where the mapping comes from. So for example, we're showing here diabetes mellitus type 2. So regardless of how the author would have used this, it is always mapped to the entry term, and then you can be sure that you are always finding all of the information on diabetes type 2. Also included in entry, and then also readily available for you to search, are 14 study types, including the new diagnostic test accuracy study. And we also have a number of drug and disease subheadings. And you can find those on our search forms, and we'll look a little bit closer at those later on in the webinar. So, precise retrieval. So how do we take that content, all of that content, and that indexing, and then enable you to do the best search possible? Even from the quick search form, you are availing of the power of entry and mapping. So here, as you start to type in a term into the quick search form, the autocomplete will find the matching entry term. And that means that if you type, for example, Januvia in, it tells you that Januvia is a term that you can search for, because Januvia is a synonym of sitagliptin. And that means that you can use either of those terms to retrieve all of the records that you are interested in. So Quick Search is providing guidance. From the session results page, you now have a number of filters that you can use on the left-hand side. So here we've expanded the disease filter, for example, and you can see which diseases are referenced with Januvia, either as a therapeutic area or a side effect. And you can select any of those diseases to further refine your search. Also, within your set of records, you can click on the index terms, which gives you deeper information about that particular article. So here on the article that we've clicked on, we can see exactly the information that the indexers have found in the article on sitagliptin. We can see the exact side effects that were cited. So the authors found that sitagliptin caused an adverse drug reaction, and the adverse drug reaction were the following side effects. There was a drug combination included in this particular article and a drug comparison, and it was used to treat non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. All of this is at your fingertips when you carry out your searches in Embase, and this is available because the indexers have indexed the full text and included this deeper information for you to retrieve. So, Chris, can I turn it over to you to do our poll, where we can find out from our audience today what it is they're most interested in seeing with regards to a demonstration in Embase.
Okay, sure. Yeah, as Anne-Marie said, now that we've introduced you to Embase, we'd like to take this second half of the webinar to tell you more about a topic that you would prefer to hear about. So please let us know by selecting one of the options on your screen. And we'll give you about 30 seconds to make up your mind. So we have about 10 seconds left. Okay, great. So the results are in, and Anne-Marie, it looks like we would like to hear more about an introduction to building and combining searches.
Okay, that's great, Chris. Thank you for that. And I would just like to start with a slide where I summarized a couple of points, and then we'll go into Embase and we'll take a look around at building and combining searches, and then we can come back and look at these again. So some of the things to keep in mind as we're doing this search is the use of single quotes to capture a phrase, and I've used diabetes mellitus here. So we want to make sure that we capture the full phrase and not diabetes and mellitus. Autocomplete is very nice for that, because when you're using autocomplete, of course it finds that exact phrase for you as you're typing it in. Breaking up your searches is also very useful, and we are actually going to do a drug search and a disease search and combine those. And when we're in the session results, we'll have a look at how you can edit your search by running your cursor over your search strategy. You can edit that particular strategy, or indeed go back to a search form for more guidance on editing. And truncation and operators are used, and we'll see those a little bit when we combine the searches. And there is another webinar that we do where we go into a little bit, quite a lot more detail on building search strategies, and we talk a lot more about the truncation. And we'll give you a link to our training site at the end of this webinar, where you can find a recording of that, and we should repeat perhaps that webinar a little bit later on in the year, so it may be useful to attend. So let me bring you into Embase right now. So this is the Embase homepage, which may or may not be familiar to you. And I'm currently on the quick search page. What I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the effectiveness of two drugs, sitagliptin and saxagliptin, in the treatment of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Now, this I find is a good example to introduce you to entry. Now, you may or may not be using thesaurus for setting up your search, but it is a very good place to gain some more information on the terminology that you would like to use in your search. We could, of course, start with a quick search, but let's just take a little look at Entry and familiarize yourself with how easily you can find more information. Now, if you're interested in the area of diabetes mellitus, what you can do is type in diabetes into the Entry search box here. We click on Enter, and we'll see that we get a number of options. Now, these are all the terms in M3 that use diabetes or have diabetes included. I'm going to use the diabetes mellitus here, which, as we know, is a disease. And if I scroll down, I can see all of the narrower terms for diabetes mellitus. So these are the more specific terms for this particular disease. And what I see here is my non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Now that sounds familiar, and if I now click on that and move down the screen again, I can see that I have now found all my synonyms, and I see here indeed that I've got diabetes mellitus type 2, diabetes mellitus type 2 Roman numerals, and on and on. So again, we come back to, if I want to do a comprehensive search for any area for any area related to diabetes mellitus type 2 or non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, then I want to find all of the articles, not just the articles where one of those terms was included. So the synonym and the mapping become very important for that comprehensive searching. So I can now see that, as far as I can see, all of the synonyms are included, so I don't need to type those into my search box. I can now concentrate on searching for non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. And if I just go up the page again, we can see that I've then got a number of options. Once you've found your actual term, then you'll see here explosion search, which in this case is not so interesting because non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus is what we call at the tip of the tree. There are no more specific terms for non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. So an explosion search here wouldn't make any difference. Now an explosion search for diabetes mellitus would. Major focus is interesting, and this is a little look into the refining of your searches, because major focus will find only the articles where the indexers indicated that it was of the most importance in that particular article. So major focus is a refine option for you. But let's just leave what's ticked at the moment, and what we can do now is we can actually take this query to the disease search form, which is nice and handy because that's exactly where we want to go. So we click on this, and then we have a number of disease subheadings that we can look for. Now we could just do a search for non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, but let's use our subheadings, and we click on drug therapy, and we click on search. And we've got our first set of results. Here we go. So we have one result here. What I'm now going to do, so we spoke about doing individual searches, separate searches, and combining those at the end. So let's take a look at the drug search form. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at sitagliptin and saxagliptin. So two drugs that are used in the treatment of type 2 diabetes or non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. And what we'll do here is we'll look at drug comparison, okay, because we want to compare the effectiveness of these two drugs. So rather than find all of the articles on these, let's do a drug comparison and do a search. And we give it just a moment. And we get our second set of results. So what we can now do is we can now combine those, okay? So we can select number 2, and we can select number 1, and we have our combine options on top. Now what you have here is the default AND, or we can select OR, so we could do number 1 or number 2, which wouldn't actually be very effective at this particular time. Or we can go for the advanced options. Now if you have a number of searches here, and you would like to do a number of different combinations, then you can click on Advanced, and you can see here that then it is up to you to indicate exactly how you would like to combine the number of searches that you've created in your session results. Well, let's click back on Basic, and let's, using AND, let's click on Combine. Okay, and we can see actually in this case that the majority of the records that we found indicate that non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus was part of these results, which is what we would expect. So now, once you've found this, of course, then you can go on to look at your saving searches and your email alerts, or you may indeed decide that you want to do some editing. Now, running your cursor, as you see, over any of these searches will open up a number of options for you. Now, if I click on the Edit option, I'll see that I can make changes to my search here in the session results. I'm not going to do that just now. Or I can copy back to the drug search. So the system recognizes which search form you used to create your search in the first place, and it will copy it back to the drug search form for you. Okay, that is an introduction to building and combining searches. So like we said, we could have any number of searches here, and we combine them, and then once we're happy with the particular results that we found, we can set them up. Here you can see as an email alert, or indeed you can select and you can save. And importantly, before setting up an email alert or saving your search, then it is important to either register, if you haven't done that already, or to log in using your existing username and password. Chris, how are we doing for time? Do we have time to do a little bit more searching in Embase?
Yeah, I think if we go through one more quick scenario, I think that would work.
Okay, and could you then tell me what was the second most popular choice from the audience?
Yes, I just have to look at the results again.
We're so focused on the first one, we forget to look at the second one.
Yeah. I think okay, I don't have it here on the screen. I apologize. So what we can do, why don't we just go ahead and take some questions? We do have some questions here.
Okay, or I'm happy to just, we can take a little look at the refine options if we've still got some time, Chris.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, because we spoke a little bit about the saving searches and the email alerts. So with regards to refining your search, I just wanted to, while we still have time, show you a couple of options for doing that. So there's a lot of content in Embase which we saw. So over 23 million articles. We also have the conference abstracts in there. And what we can do actually is take a look at how the filters work in just a moment. But it's then important then, of course, when you're getting thousands of results, that you have options to refine those results while still being relevant and finding the precise information that's relevant for you. So we did look at the quick search form, for example. And with regards to the quick search, if we were to do a quick search here for diabetes mellitus, now this is a very broad search. Let me just make sure I spell that correctly for you. Sorry, I'm not spelling it correctly. Hang on a sec. Okay, hang on. Let me just go back to the quick search again. There we go. So, diabetes and we see our diabetes mellitus coming up. And we'll see that we've got over 515,000 records there, which is a lot. But okay, we're maybe interested in this therapeutic area and interested in what kind of information may be available, also looking for good terms to use for our search. So why don't we select that and do a search? Because what we can do, now this is also done, interestingly enough, you'll note that there are some extra records here compared to what we saw in the drop-down menu, and or rather in our autocomplete. And this is because the quick search, just to let you know, does an exploded search but also a free text search. Okay, so you will get some extra information coming in there. But what we could do is, for example, is explore maybe our filters a little bit. And if we have a look at the publication types, for example, we did mention the conference abstracts earlier. And here we see that actually we've got quite a lot of conference abstracts on this particular subject matter. So maybe you're interested in the most up-to-date information. And just as what's in the database right now, we can click on the conference abstracts, and we can then click on filter, and we have a new set of results to work with, which only has conference abstract information. So that's one option, okay? So we have diabetes, our diabetes, with conference abstracts. And you could then go and explore those conference abstracts, have a look at the index terms, for example, and pick up some index terms from there. Now, the difference with going to the advanced search form is you have a number of other flexible options. So the quick search is very much what it says. It gives you the opportunity to type in a term, get a broad overview of the literature available, and maybe some investigation into terms that you would like to use, or different publication types, like how many conference abstracts are in there, for example. But if I was to type in diabetes mellitus here, for example, using my single quotes, which we remember from our pages from before, then we have a number of options. So mapping to preferred terminology, always good to do. But here, for example, we see our major focus coming in. Or we have, for example, quick limits and advanced limits here as well. We also have the use of the field limits. Now, for example, you could look here and add maybe conference name, for example. And then you would find all the conferences with diabetes mellitus in the name. And if we click off that, or you can use, like I said, you can use your quick limits. So I could select humans here, and I could select from the publication types. I could select conference abstract here, for example, and then do a search. So these are options that are available to you from the advanced search form, and then you can click on your search. And then, of course, you can see that we get a very, very different set of results. So these are some of the things to remember. So going to the advanced search form, availing perhaps of the major focus to refine your results, using the quick and the advanced limits, using your filters when you get to the session results, and also what we looked at before are the drug and disease subheadings, which will refine your results to a particular concept with regards to a drug or a disease. So let me just go back to our slides very quickly and summarize those before we go into the questions. So let me bring that up to full screen again. So we had the building and combining searches, so using our single quotes. We broke up our search into individual searches. We did a drug search and a disease search, and we combined. And we had a look at how you could run your cursor over for your editing and also for copying back to a search form. Chris, shall we take some questions?
Yes. Yeah, thank you for those in-depth demos. We have come to the Q&A portion of the webinar. So again, I'd like to remind you, if you'd like to use the panel, either the chat functionality on the side of your screen, and you can send us some questions. But we also do have a list of questions here for you, Anne-Marie.
Okay.
Okay, so let's start with the first one. It's a two-part question. Is the syntax compatible with other popular platforms? And may I easily import email alerts set up on another platform?
Okay, interesting question. There are differences in the syntax, and you saw a little bit of the syntax going by today when we were running the searches. So, for example, with the field limits, there's the use of slash, for example. The major focus has a code, explosion has a code, subheadings have a code. You have the operators, you have the truncation using the asterisk, for example. So there are differences with other platforms for sure. For specific differences, we have made some guides to show how those differences actually look. So if you're using Embase, for example, on maybe on the Ovid platform, for example, then we do have a translation guide to give you an idea of how that might differ. And we do have an import of email alert functionality as well. So if you have email alerts on other platforms, then you can easily put those in an Excel-like format and import them into Embase. And we provide guidance for that in the help files as well. And help is found in the right-hand side, top right-hand side of the Embase product pages.
Okay, thank you. And another question, is there a hierarchy of clinical trial terms, trial versus study?
Yes, there is. So if I understand you correctly, what I can very quickly do is show you in entry. So, for example, I think you asked clinical study, was it, Chris?
Let's say clinical trial terms, trial versus study.
Okay. So if we've got, for example, clinical study here, and you'll see, for example, lots of different terminology here, and underneath the various, so you've got clinical trial topic, and then, for example, you'll see a hierarchy of terms underneath. But then we have the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. So again, that would come back to your explosion search. So if you did an explosion on clinical trial, it would include all of these, and I can expand the controlled clinical trial topic for you as well. And you'll see there that we've got randomized controlled trial. So indeed, there is a hierarchy there, and the explosion search will enable you to pick up that hierarchy depending on which term you choose to search with, at what level you choose to search.
Okay, great. And the next question, how would you filter results when doing a systematic review?
It would depend on the systematic review, I guess. So if you were, for example, interested in filtering from an evidence-based medicine point of view, what you could do in your session results, if I understand you correctly, so once you have done a particular search and you've built up a search strategy that you feel is suitable, you may want to then filter on levels of evidence, and you can do that using the filter study type here. So if we, I think we're viewing, if we go to more here, we can see, for example, all the various study types here. And I'm just trying to see. So, for example, we have 99 randomized control trials here. And if there are systematic reviews, then they will also have been indexed by the indexers. And you will see them in the list, and you can select the systematic review and filter out all of the other study types and look only at the systematic reviews.
Okay.
And
right,
if I haven't answered that question correctly, if I didn't understand it correctly, please do let me know. We will be providing, I think, as you said, Chris, or you will say later, in the Q&A later. But please don't hesitate to contact me directly, and I can give you more information there.
Okay, great. Okay, a couple more questions. Are gene expression set data also searchable in Embase?
Gene expressions set data. Gene expressions, yes. We need to look at the specific information, but certainly gene information, protein information is available in Entry. So I would say take a look at Entry if you're using Embase already. Look for the information that you're interested in Entry. If you can't find what you're looking for, then let us know and we can help with that. So we have a wide group of experts who can, biomedical experts as well, who can help us drill into that. And if you're not using Embase already and you are interested in seeing more about that, then let me know and we can set up a demo for you to look a bit more closely.
Okay, thank you. And another question, this has to do with the cited by links. So when you're looking at a cited by link in Embase, will the user still get to view the cited by citations if you do not have a license to Scopus?
Yes. You see the list only, so you see the list of citations, but they're not clickable into Scopus. So that's something that we're looking at with regards to creating more of a free layer there. But certainly you'll be able to review the list of citations, but you don't click into Scopus.
Okay. All right. And here's another question. This is about Entry and Mesh. How do they work together, and are Mesh terms in Entry, and how can I best search to include both?
Okay. So how do they work together? Now we have a great white paper, particularly on this subject matter, sitting on our info site. So if you go to embase.com/info and click on the Entry tab, you should find this white paper at the bottom. If you can't, again, please let us know. We'll send it to you. But it talks about exactly how Entry and Mesh do work together. All of the Mesh terms are in Entry. So Entry is updated 3 times a year. Mesh is updated once a year, and we then get that feed and we map it to Entry. And that is sometimes a one-to-one, and there's differences in the way Medline Mesh rather phrases the various terms. But if it's a one-to-one, then we'll add it as a synonym. And if there are some occasions where one doesn't index as deeply as the other, depending on focus areas, always in the drugs, for example, we index a lot deeper. Maybe in particular areas of we find in public health, maybe we don't index so deeply, then we will map it to the nearest Entry term.
Okay.
So certainly it is included, and when searching then, using the Entry term or the Mesh term you can use either, but I would recommend, if this is something that if you're building up quite complex searches, then I would recommend reading the white paper, or at least glancing through the white paper to see where we highlight some particular exceptions that would be useful to know and be aware of when you're building up your searches. So let us know if you can't put your hands on that particular white paper.
Okay, and I think we have time for maybe just a couple more quick questions. Let's see, this one says, is there an Ovid to Embase translation guide, and if so, where is it located?
There is. Now, what we would do is, if you could contact us directly about that, and then we can work with you on that. So we just need to understand exactly what it is you're trying to do. So it is in the process, I think, of just being updated right now. But we have put something together in the past to help our customers. But please drop me a mail right after the webinar indicating that you'd like to see this, and then we'll talk offline about it.
Okay, and let's see, how about maybe one more question? In entry mode, what does browse by facet mean?
So this is where you browse through the particular, the high-level facets in entry. And I have to admit, I'm not, this isn't a way that I particularly search, but I can certainly show you. So if you go from facet here, so this is how you would drill down. So this is our largest facet here, for example, chemicals and drugs. And so you could start at the chemicals and drugs and then start to drill down into particular groups of drugs. So antibacterial drugs, for example, or anti-inflammatory drugs. And or you can, of course, go by, you can pick the way that you would like to drill down to particular terminology based on your area of interest. So the facets are more of a browse, as you can see, so browse by facet. Or the way that I would normally do it is just type the term in, and it will bring up that section of the tree that you're interested in.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie. We have come to the end of our Embase webinar. Thank you for attending, and thank you again, Anne-Marie, for your presentation. Today's session offered an introduction to solutions Embase can provide. We are offering other, more in-depth sessions throughout the year. The next Embase session will be on May 23rd. During this webinar, we will show you more on Embase content and coverage. You will receive a link to the webinar calendar in a follow-up email. Please feel free to register for as many Embase webinars as you'd like. When you leave the session, a survey will pop up. Please fill out what your thoughts are regarding the webinar so that we can improve and meet your needs. Thanks again, and good luck with exploring Embase. We hope to meet you again soon. Thank you.
Chris.